and good morning. All right. Let's go back to data archive. We had been in replicate before buyer. Now, why? Why did we stop to build buyer? If I remember correctly, it was because we wanted to see the logs in tracing, because we were going to use a library that used tracing. Okay. That's right. We're going to use Iggy. Given the starting checksum, fetch checksum. I'll fetch this range of pages from the DB and send them to the client. We're going to get Iggy set up. Now, I'm hoping that we could just use Iggy for our tests. Start it up, run a test, shut it down. That would give me a little bit more confidence in the code base. Let's see. We'll import Iggy client and create a new one. Okay. Maybe. Hmm. We have a. Let's see, do we have streaming already? No. Self. We want to provide a client. Apply the provided client implementation for the specific transport. Setting client clears the client config. Interesting. That sets client, whereas TCP starts to have a TCP client config builder. Okay. What does build do? Returns an error if the client is not provided. It creates the IGE client instance with the provided configuration. Okay. With TCP. Just quick. Oh. Mm. Nice. And they have their own duration. Why? So we'll connect to the server, wherever it is. with server address. Connection max, retries. Interval, sure. Hmm. We'll take all of these options, dump them in a configurable object, pass that in. We call build, get an Iggy client back. I don't want that, so we will just use regular duration. And server name. Well, that was a string. Gonna let the dog out in just a moment. All right. or address with server name. So I spelled it's reconnection retries. This one needs a default. Say it'll try to connect every 3 seconds by default. One more. There we go. So at this point, we've been building up the quick client. We have to call build on it. We've configured it entirely. Okay. So let's build that. So we have quick. What sort of error? We have an Iggy error. Hmm. What's this? Unwrap or else? Ah, we're not providing a closure. And we don't have subscriber. Perfect. So we have quick on Iggy client builder. Don't have to worry about TCP or HTTP. We're not doing encryptor. Partitioner, interesting. We'll skip that. Calculate partition ID. Hmm. It's provided a client. We do not have anything that implements client. System client, user client, personal access token client, stream client, topic client, partition client, message client. Wow. It's implemented for quick client. Did we not? Client address, server address. Why would you need a client address? Server. Okay. So why? So if they already have a config, why also require it for the client builder? Interesting. With message handler does not exist. So it looks like we could just create a client with a quick client. Introductions. Getting started. I see. So we're looking at two different API levels, like a high level and a low level API. So by default, it uses the TCP client. This is an awkward interface. Why is transport just not an enum to these three with arc blah in each of them? That feels weird. Fascinating. We create users, we create streams for different tenants. I don't think we need to do that. Okay. So given that there are hints of a high-level and a low-level API, client provider, client, oh, just a moment. Clients. So builder is consumer. And wraps the underlying low-level client for specific transport. And this is where we were. We're at builder. So IGI client builder. Okay, I think this is the higher level config. We said we wanted to use quick. There's no with message handler. I think that's with client. Has the message handler. Build the IGI client instance. This method returns an error if the client is not provided. Does it? Self the client. Okay. Does with quick. So then we get into quick client builder when we call build there. Self.parent builder.with client. Okay, so by configuring quick builder, we end up providing the quick client. Okay. So then we have a configured builder. I'm a little curious. Self-config.build. There's lots of bits and bobs that are not exposed. So this must be the child-friendly API. Keep you from hurting yourself. We call build here once we have that back. Client should be provided. That gets created. IGI client create. So then we have our IGI client. Creates a new IGI client with a provided client implementation for the specific transport. Okay, that's for the low level API. Returns the underlying client. Consumer returns the builder for the standalone consumer. So we have a client, we create a consumer for a name, stream, topic, partition, I assume. I don't think we have to worry about that, so I've got about 15, 20 more minutes. Let's get the client built, because then we'll have our client. You know, I haven't seen a connect anywhere. When does that happen? I guess technically we're using Quick, which is on top of UDP, but like authenticate, stuff like that is, maybe we missed it with client. And when we use the Quick Builder, what if we use TCP? Just sets a client, creates a new client. And TCP client. The state is disconnected. Does it auto connect? It must. Okay. Oh, there's async connect. It's not public. Disconnect, connect. Send raw with response. Hmm. Okay. And this is in connect. Okay. Okay. Fine. It's handled upstream. So we do not need to provide a client with subscriber. Do we need to provide that? Uh, this, we got that back. We called build, so we have an IGE client. Really? That produces an IGE client, so we don't call. So that's an IGE client. Okay. So what do we want our interface to look like? Um, we want to be able to connect to certain streams and to send the data. So a client would connect and say, I want to start streaming the database from this checksum. We would need to convert that. So what does our API look like? This is the database name. So given a certain shard, I want to start streaming from here. And I don't think Iggy can do that. Like we can't just put data into Iggy and say, hey, this is the time based on this checksum. So we would need to convert the checksum into a transaction ID. So here, that would give us a transaction ID. And maybe we could use that transaction ID or we store a little bit more information about this. Excuse me, about Iggy in here. When we shove data into Iggy, are we able to keep some identifier around clients? Let's look at producer. So we get the stream identifier, topic identifier. Initializes the producer by subscribing to diagnostic events, creating them if they do not exist. Okay, we could send a chunk, send one, where a message has an ID. Okay, so we could provide an ID. This is almost. Wait, is it exactly? Did we have 128 bytes in this? I think it is. Maybe not the 128 bytes that somebody would expect. But that might be perfect. A happy little accident. So, given that we can provide just a payload with an ID, we could store, actually, we could use the same exact ID for our transaction ID here, because we're using a 64-bit value for the time at the epoch. We're using a 32-bit number for the salt and the I change. Each are a 32-bit. So altogether, that's 128 bits. And it's increasing, which is nice. Let's look at client, consumer. Consumer offset client. Who implements this? Iggy client. So store consumer offset. For a specific consumer or consumer group for a given stream and topic by unique IDs or names. Read more. Sure. Hmm. See, this has an offset. I would like to stream from a particular ID onward. Stream client, get stream, create stream, update stream, delete stream, purge stream, stream ID. Okay. What is identifier? Kind, length, and value. Oh, the kind of the identifier? Hmm. Hmm. Seems like that could be its own type. Why aren't these part of ID kind or ID? That was stream client. Consumer, let's see, message client. Whole messages. Send messages, flush. We could set the offset for a consumer group. Hmm. Or for an individual consumer. What is offset? Setup tracing. Client config. Consumer kind. So for a given consumer, you can set your offset, but we don't know the relationship between the message ID and the offset. Don't think this is it. But maybe it'll give us a hint. Transport. Create a topic. Mhm. From a specific offset. So yes, we need to map offset to that. Let's say we can't do that. What can we do? We can start listening to now, right? Like whatever current is. Right? And then we can ensure that we only add data in a specific order, maybe to TiKV versus Iggy, right? Make sure they're set up in a specific way such that create a stream, get that connected, listening for new data, but from current state back to a specific checksum, we will send all of the data. So given now, which should be here, so we look up the current checksum for a given database name, create a range, use our previously created range function to stream data from a point to current, while having created the stream listener, we wait and don't pull any data off of the stream yet. Right? So first we connect the client, say, hey, please start giving me data, but we don't consume. Then we feed it, the client, all of the data that we need to out of TiKV. And once that is done, then we start consuming from Iggy to stream the rest of the data. Okay. I think that would work. Uh, but what are Iggy offsets? The append-only log is the core concept of Iggy. Okay. Sequence of records that are being appended to the end of the log. Records are immutable. To navigate the log, you can use the offset. Simple integer starts from 0 and incremented by 1 for each record. How do you specify the most recent? Like if you don't want to start listening at 0. Oh, you know what? All right, I have to get going. But we'll play. I think we'll play around with Iggy to understand it. Maybe use the command line interface to send some text, create some clients. All right. We're going to raid Future Highway. Thank you all for hanging out. Till next time, y'all. Bye bye.